Yeah, so I'm basically researching that there's been a large decline in sisters and nuns. And I wanted to ask, I asked Sister Juliana the same thing, but why do you think that is? Do you think there's like a reason?
I was just talking with the postulant last night, and she was told, I think by her spiritual director, who was a priest or oblate, um, I think that's what it was. I can't remember. It was somebody like that,
Mhm.
um, who said that, you as a young person going into religious life like that takes a lot of bravery to go in. And I think it takes a lot of bravery to go in because it's very against the current or against the grain of what's happening. If you look back at, let's say, Vatican II, there was a mass exodus of religious after Vatican II because there was a lot of changes. I don't necessarily know if we're in a, it's a similar, it's, there's, if it's similar now, but I think there are so many more options, really, truly. I think not all of it is negative. I think there's some. I think the scandals, the abuse scandals that have happened in the church cause a lot of people to leave. I think that's a lot of reasons why people don't come to the church and come into religious life. There's always stigma. It's, what do you do but pray all day? And we're like, no, there are nuns that do that, but as sisters, we don't. It's a whole thing. It's education. But I think also too, back in the day, especially pre-Vatican II, you either, for women, you got married or you entered religious life. Those were your only two options. And if you really didn't want to get married, well, it was definitely, looked up, down upon that you weren't married as you entered religious life just so you weren't criticized. So we have a lot of options, and I think that contributes to kind of the decline in vocations coming in. However, though, I have to say, I think that's only the past couple of years. And I think probably a lot of it has to do with the scandal for sure. Um, but if we look at it very steadily recently, if you look at it over a period of, I'd say the past 20 to 30 years, there's been a steady, like, it's not like a growth, but it's just a steady kind of plateau where like things keep moving and things are moving forward. There hasn't really been a super sharp decline as there was, let's say, in Vatican II at that area. That was like a mass exodus. In the Felicians, we had over 200 sisters leave, I think, just in the little mini province we had at the time, because we were broken up at the time. So um, there's not necessarily that anymore. I think another issue with the low numbers is that a lot of sisters are dying. And
Yeah.
so we have numbers because they're dying, but and so I think, yeah, I think that's what I think.
Okay.
I,
And then in addition to the scandals of the church, there's also been a critique of patriarchal power. What do you sort of think of that? Or do you think that we can critique as Catholics the patriarchal power, if there is any that goes on in the church?
well, my first answer would be like, yes, power to the women. I'm always for that. We definitely can critique. And I think not even critique in the sense of because there's patriarchal power, which there definitely is. Um, we have as humans and people and members of the church, we have the complete right to critique the church and share what it needs to, what we feel, what's going on. I think at the moment Pope Francis is doing a great job of recognizing that need and doing his synodality work that he's started and has been growing so that the voices of the people are heard. And so I think he's kind of moving in that direction of including everybody, where that wasn't happening in the past. There was this patriarchal power that was developing. Um, and as I've learned over the past 6 months, I've learned a lot of church history and a lot of things coming. Um, that's happened throughout the centuries. I think it's very easy to see right now that that's happening and we don't like it. But looking back at the just history of human life, that has happened at least once every like hundreds or so years. It just kind of that's the flow of human life. We forget lessons and we have to repeat them. And so they come. Um, I think now comes with the work of, St. Francis that's helping. So I think it comes down to individual priests, not necessarily collective, you know, man person kind of power. I couldn't think of the words, man, person power. Um, that who is doing that. I think I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of priests, so I don't know what kind of you know, certain guidelines and things and strategies have been implemented to help curb that, the power that builds, or this, prevent scandals from happening again. I don't know the I'm not there, but as far as the women, women's side of it, heck yeah, I was about to say hell yeah. Hell yeah, we can critique. I was like, yes, let's do it. I think I can critique even within the women. And we have power in here. Um, in the history of religious life, there's sisters were classified within their congregations. You had the choir sisters and the lay sisters. And the choir sisters who were the ones that were educated and went out and did ministry. And you had the lay sisters who did all the domestic work. So it's even, you had discrimination even within the women. So it happens, unfortunately, but life, we're, humans, we definitely have original sin. So that just kind of comes. So yeah, there you go. I think that answers it.
Yes, thank you. I think I only have one more question. Many
Okay,
people,
time.
okay, perfect. Many people are using the term modern sister, modern nun, millennial sister, millennial nun.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
In like,
yes.
yeah, in like recent articles. So, what does it mean to you to be like a millennial sister?
A millennial sister. Ooh, okay. Well, speaking, I just learned recently that I am in fact a millennial, not Gen Z. There's been like I learned that at one of my retreats. That was really funny. I was like, oh, this is revolutionary. I always straddled the border, so I never knew.
Well, you were born
But
in 2000, right? You're two.
yeah.
Okay, I'm 2001,
Um,
so I think I'm Gen
well,
Z.
I guess I've learned according to this thing that was one sister showed me, who's like these people who are at the forefront of generational research. Millennials go until 2004.
No.
But if you look at other ones, then you see different. Still don't know, nor do I think it necessarily matters to my life. But anyways, I just thought that was funny. Okay, so I love millennial sister. Let me think. I have to say I do. Well, that cracked me up that I have not heard that before. That is really quite funny. I think what it means for me and how I can already see it being lived out in my congregation, um, which also has to do with how we live as, religious sisters and how we live out the gospel, which is a very unique way to the Felicians that, different to others. But it's being, let me think, how can I word this? I have a couple of different thoughts. Let me see.
Take your time.
Okay, so being evangelical, that's part of, we have like these four pillars or our charism. But I even see, so being evangelical is one of them. It kind of, for me, I was just thinking it was different than apostolate. So that's what I was thinking. Okay, I got it. Here we go. So living as, a millennial sister, and I think even within the Felician sisters, we have our charism, which is our, uniqueness. I take the vows, the three vows, but we also, as Felician sisters, have our core values, which is, like, I think now, compassion, respect for human dignity, solidarity with those in need, transformation. And I think that's it. I think those are the four. Within those is justice and peace. Can't remember. I think that's been a newly added one or something like that. There's justice and peace. And so for us, it's very important. I've noticed that we are at the forefront of helping those justice and peace issues. So for example, last night, it kind of goes back. So our provincial, which is like the head of North America, all the sisters in North America, saw this woman at a conference who was human trafficked, and she's sharing her story and has started this big nonprofit kind of thing. And so what she does is called the Soap Project, and so she labels bars of soaps and now makeup removers and puts them in hotels so that a person, because that's the worst spots for getting trafficked. It's bringing the men bring these women to hotels. And so the woman can see this, soap and call the number. And then the hotel staff also has been trained and has material to recognize if a person, a woman's coming in that they in fact are missing and are being trafficked. Anywho, she had a lovely talk. We listened to it last night because they were in Chicago. So the sisters got to label, label these soap bars. And I think to kind of be like a millennial sister, I think what we're really working on hard in the Felicians is that social justice and peace, kind of piece of life. We definitely have the spiritual renewal of the world, which is that's how we live the gospel, and we're going to share the gospel with all of those around us. But I think the millennial or being the modern sister part of it comes in is that we are very attuned to those social issues going on right now in the country, particularly. And we're not completely on top of it. Like I know I for sure we're not. I don't know all that we do, but this is particularly the one that happened last night, so that's why it's fresh in my mind. But I didn't know. So apparently, we have we as sisters bought, not like personally, but like we have a thing, bought a ton of soap so that the sisters then could label it, like the manpower of the sisters labeling it, and the people who are in these chapters of the soap project will go to sporting events and pass out soap, or go to hotels where a sporting event is close and pass out these soaps. It's a really big deal. It's really cool. But I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like I knew we were going to label these soaps, particularly the sisters in Chicago were. I'm like, oh, that's so great that we're involved in this. And they're using us as manpower because please do. Like we got sisters, we'll do it. But not only that, but we bought the soap that they can now give because it's 100% donation based. So I was like, oh, legit. And so as I've been here for only 5 months now, I've been seeing how we've been living out the way of, let's say, a modern sister in a kind of a justice kind of area. And how I'm still learning how my little gifts that God has given me will fit into that. So I don't know if I'm living it out right now, yes, through prayer. And so the time comes and I grow more, I'll eventually live it out more through actions mixed with the rhythm and balance of prayer and action.
Oh, I love that.